Agent of Foxglove Ingobnito by Lark Sabre. Read by Lark Sabre. Chapter 26 The Job, Part 1.
Joey, you's ready for the big heist tonight? Greeted Lefty. Hey, look at them threads. See John Garby? Lucky? That's how professional dresses for work. Trousers with creases, a white shirt. That's a nice touch, Joey. Real nice.
Thanks, Lefty, replied Hunter, a little embarrassed by Lefty's favoritism.
I think you look like some schmuck school brat,
sniped John Gobby and sniggered, Lucky joining him in the derision, neither remotely suspecting John Gobby had hit the bullseye.
Hey, you mooglins don't know goo-goo get you gets about big city swagger. Joey Pumpkins is a smooth operator, ain't you, Joe? Forget about it,
chided Lefty, and then turned to the evening's program of extreme goblin lawlessness.
Okay, so we's got to scoop back down to the sewers, bada gang, bada ghoulie, and ride Lincoln to the manhole nearest to Damselfly City. Once we're above ground, out into open on humoke turf, snot starts getting serious. There's a row of them humoke hovels made of brick. We gotta cross 'em by the gardens at the back. Keepin' lookout for them big wolf rats and purr rats and any loco humokes mowing their lawns at midnight. Once we're in Damselfly City, that's the easy part. Them Tinkerbell feds can't touch us with our bugsies, so we just fill our knapsacks with that fairy dust and hightail it back down to the manhole to the getaway gator, just like we done the last couple of times. And it'll be even more the cool breeze now we got Crazy Joey here,
explained Lefty at length.
Then the boss can get that godfather running, and we'll have some real magic muscle, eh, Lefty? We'll teach them Tinkerbells and Schmokes they can't kick gobbles around no more,
said John Gobby gleefully. He could almost taste the table-turning power promised by Bogsy Sigil's breakthrough in goblinizing fairy dust, as could Lefty and Lucky, though their share in the spoils would of course be at the Gobfather's discretion. Yeah, it'll be gobtastico, Hunter fraudulently agreed, knowing full well it portended disaster for every species on Earth other than goblins, and maybe rats and alligators. The quartet of fairy dust thieves, one of whom was our heroic pretender, stole through the moonlit scrubland of Braddock's Meadow to the manhole cover just over the mild mound of the roadside verge. The three law-breaking, legit goblins had their hooter-huffers slung over their shoulders, with some twine attached to both ends like kids playing Robin Hood. Not that many kids play Robin Hood anymore. So let's say they were playing Avengers and they all wanted to be Hawkeye, which wouldn't happen either, as he's not the coolest Avenger, but our imaginations have taken us this far, so I'm sure they'll indulge us a little further. The Godbers didn't need quivers to store arrows in, as hooter-huffers didn't use arrows. All the projectiles were, of course, brewing mucally in their Olaf the Snowman-esque snouts, brewing quite fruitfully, if the constant snorting and throat-clearing was any indication. The hooter-huffer Lefty-led Hunter was in his back pocket. He hoped he wouldn't have to use it. Indeed, he didn't even know if he would be able to, not just down to a lack of practice, but because he hadn't yet caught a winter cold, so was therefore out of ammo. But he performatively sniffed and snorted to blend in with the other gobsters. Soon enough, the four of them were in the sewers, waiting for Sharona and Lincoln. Their bogsies were glowing in the moist darkness, and there was an excited, almost electric hush amongst the goblins, in anticipation of the night's malfeasant mission. Even Hunter could feel the contagious exhilaration of outlawry, and had to remind himself he was actually on the side of the angels. Well, fairies. Though fairies do kind of look like budget angels. Silhouetted against brickwork clad in sickly-looking patches of moss, the water-walking vision that was Sharona appeared, her greeper cloak resembling Batman's cape if Batman was a tramp. By now, Hunter took it in his stride when Lincoln made himself known, the gator's long head rising from the foul murk and snapping its jaws together like two impossibly thorny branches clacking next to one another in a gale-force wind.
Sharona, you crazy gator-sailing broad. How's youse doing? Yo, we need a ride to Huffer Road Manhole like Bada Gang, Bada Ghoulie. Know what I'm saying? This ain't no shopping trip for gobnob biscuits, you hear?
Lefty urged the she-goblin helmswoman with polite impatience.
"You's wise gob's doing a stick-up again, ain't Lefty?"
inquired Sharona of the well-known Gabbo.
Word on Stink Street is that Boss Brasco's cooking up a scheme gonna get us out of the sewers for good. Is that on the level, Lefty? I'd sure like to give Lincoln a taste of the free life on the surface. He could roam the banks of the River Braddock and chow down on a hummock or two instead of swimming through that nappy water night after night. Know what I mean? An alligator wants to lay in the sun once in a while, capiche?
Capiche, Sharona, I hear ya. But remember, I swore the oath, got murder, so's I gotta keep my gobbo kazoo zipped. Let's just say, the quicker you get us to Hartford Road, the quicker Lincoln might get a tan, eh?
Lefty winked at Sharona and boarded the alligator. John Gobby and Lucky followed, respectively greeting unimpressed Sharona with a "Buongiorno, Trollface," and "Yo, Maguma, I want to see you work that hooter like a Pajarius, G.O.V.E., Pinocchio, in mid-flow, till the judge say the lie will set you free." Apparently, Lucky thought that the way to Sharona's heart might be through an impromptu rap, but Sharona's lime-green Ice Queen demeanor only melted when Hunter shuffled past.
Hey, Joey, how's you doing? You's looking moto cabello, but that ain't nothing new, hee hee. Are you sure using that gunky hunk Ryan Goblin ain't related? I finished my shift at midnight if you want to go get some sloppy gubseppies with me. And after that, you can come back to my Fatberg Villa and help me pick bits of poop out of Lincoln's fangs. That's if you wanna.
That'd be Gobtastico, Sharona, but we're working tonight, I'm afraid, so I'll have to give you a rain check with a very heavy heart. But maybe another time, falsely promised Hunter, not wanting to hurt Sharona's feelings, but also definitely not wanting a girlfriend for a very long time, and a she-goblin girlfriend who looked like an elf had spliced its DNA with a frog and a rat, never. Hunter would wager Dr. Nutkinstein had spliced a squirrel's DNA with a frog and a rat on some slow day in the lab, however.
Okay, Joey, well, I like that. You's know where to find me,
replied Sharona, sounding a smidgen disappointed, but not entirely crestfallen. Sharona wasn't a she-goblin who gave up easily. Lincoln and Sharona took Lefty and his crew down a series of tunnels in the opposite direction to Little Witherley. But after the first turning, Hunter's bearings were shot anyway, lost in this subterranea of dueling shadow play and bogsy beam upon turquoisey, algae-hued brickwork. Aquatic noises of gushing and dripping and gurgling and pouring stopped the subterranean silence becoming too eerie, though the noises kept Hunter imagining that he was the Emmett Brukowski minifigure Jerop had sent ropelessly abseiling down the bog pan. Also, though they didn't say anything for fear of feeling the rough side of their gabbo's tongue, every time Hunter turned around, he saw John Gobby and Lucky sneer at him, hissing like petty vipers in the dark, jealous of the fact that he wasn't only Lefty's new favourite apprentice, but now Sharona had a crush on him too. Log-rolling leprechauns, I better not make any enemies at this pivotal stage. This pesky $3.99 mask has got me into so many adventures and misadventures. The peerless craftsmanship of the mask makers at Morrison's has a lot to answer for. After another unspecified period of interplaying shadow play and bogsy beams, and gushing and gurgling noises, as well as envious sighs and grumbles behind him, Hunter felt relieved when Lincoln came to a float still.
Here we are, you wise gobs. Hartford Road exit. All yous who's gone ashore, gotta get ashore,
hollered Sharona, fluttering her neon lime green mascara and neon lime green eyeshadowed eyes at Hunter as he sheepishly darted past her, grinning a well-ork's grin, not that it registered upon his mask, of course. No wonder everybody thought Joey Pumpkins was ice cool in a crazy kind of way. His face never moved. John Gobby and Lucky snubbed Sharona with some mumbled gob-byes, disgruntled as they were at the newbie gobster being fast-tracked in her affections, but Sharona paid them no heed as usual.
Ciao, Sharona. We're gonna need a ride back in about 3,600 drips time,
said Lefty, alluding to the system of measuring time for sewer dwellers, which took account of the number of drips keeping up an omnipresent beat in the background, roughly equivalent to a drip per second. Goblins had lived in the sewers so long now that they had developed a sixth sense of how many drips had elapsed without having to count every single one, like musicians who'd internalized the tempo of a song they'd played many times.
Yeah, Lefty. 3,600 drifts time. I gotcha. I'll be here. Ciao, Joey!
Croakily cooed Sharona, not so readily brushed off, as Lincoln thrashed away from the ledge where he had docked. Splush!
Bugsy's on, boys, though yous won't need the light for long,
ordered Lefty as he led the way down yet another slimy, narrow ledge to a waiting human access ladder. The goblins, being goblin-sized, had to leap from a standing position and pull themselves up each rung, sometimes with a hand up from the goblin who had already mounted the higher rung, which was invariably Lefty being the tallest, though not always. Hunter was worried John Gobby or Lucky might let their involuntary love rival accidentally tumble down the ladder, should it be one of them giving him a stabby nailed hand up. But there were no such salty shenanigans. The Mobilino crew knew how to keep beefs and business separate. No dame was going to come in the way of the Gobverter levelling them up enough to escape the sewers and wrestle back the surface world from the Thinkerbells and Humotes. Besides, no one wanted to face the wrath of Boss Brasco if the night was a bust. It took a concerted collective effort to dislodge the manhole cover, all of them heaving and straining below whilst balancing atop the uppermost rung, grimacing and wincing as their bogsies glared in one another's faces at such close quarters. With a final push, the manhole cover was thrust out of the, manhole, and probing goblin hands slid it to one side. The foursome climbed up through the gap and onto Hoffer Road, where the light of the full moon dappled Hunter's town with a spectral sheen, energizing the night. Hokey cokeying hobgoblins! Hoffer Road is the road one up from mine. We live at 57 Henry Hills, so we must be entering old man Horrocks's garden either face or side on, mentally mapped out Hunter. He felt sharp as a godber's fingernails tonight, firing on all secret agent cylinders in the invigorating moonlight.
Okay, gob fellas, we's on Humote turf now, so keep your kazoo shut tight and down the boss's wallet, you hear? We gotta sneak in through the front garden of the nearest fancy Humote hovel, what with their lardy-dog glass in the windows and hoity-toity doors that lock. Then it's across 3 back gardens to the one where Damselfly City and all that sweet gabelle of fairy dust is. We's gonna be dons of all creation in the morning, and maybe my brother-in-law will finally make me the underboss, official-like.
The other three all nodded silently, absorbing every detail of the plan like bat-eared sponges. Lefty darted across one side of Hoffer Road to the other, shadowed by his hench-gobs. The normal human sounds of the neighbourhood that Hunter was so familiar with now seemed more vivid, more atmospheric, more alive, and also dangerous, now he was goblin proportioned and out in the open. He realized how vulnerable the Godbers were in this human world without magic to protect them. The Bogsies might shield them from fairy magic, or so they thought, but cats, dogs, cars, articulated lorries, the Deliveroo dudes on e-scooters, and all the trappings and bustle of human society presented gobgantuan hazards to the little carrot-conch fiends. Lefty made a beeline for the front garden of the so-called fancy Humote hovel, in reality a fairly unremarkable house, and beckoned the others to follow him. They skittered around the side of the house, alongside a stumpy fence, which towered over Hunter now, whereas he could have comfortably leant over it like a gossiping old grandma when he was his normal height, even at 7 3/4. The 4 infiltrators scampered under the gate at the end of the side passage and found themselves in the back garden of the first house on the row. Hunter heard a dog barking its head off, but mercifully it was indoors, like most well-cared-for mutts after dark. He didn't think he would be able to subdue a chihuahua at his current goblin-nutive stature. Even Jerep as a Siamese kitten would have seemed like a sapphire-peepered puma to him now. They rushed across the first back garden like knobbly-kneed ninjas. Well, all except Hunter, who wasn't wearing a traditional goblin tunic, but his school trousers, the creases holding up admirably. His knees weren't notably knobbly anyway. They then climbed up a trellis of evergreen clematis over to the second garden on the row and descended on the other side via some serendipitously overgrown and invasive ivy. They hit the ground running, 4 silent outlaws aided and abetted by the moonlight. Moonlight, the fair weather friend to burglars everywhere. From his previous raids on the fairy dust bank, Letty knew where there was a knot hole low down in the side fence of the second garden, so within a couple of minutes, or 120 drips in sewer time, Lefty's crew were stealthily traversing the third garden as quietly as librarian ghosts in spectral slippers. One more garden to go, and there'd be an old man Horrocks's backdoor wilderness. Except there was another silent beast with ill intent prowling this gobstacle course. A scraggy old ginger hunter with moonlight in his eye shine, by the name of F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E.